In the blistering heat of the Arizona Territory, where the sun scorched the earth like an unrelenting forge and the wind whispered secrets through the canyons, a lone cowboy named Jack Harlan spurred his horse into the wild expanse, rifle slung across his back, his heart heavy with the ghosts of a life left in ruins. He had set out that dawn with the singular purpose of hunting deer to fill his larder for the harsh winter ahead, but fate, that cruel and capricious mistress of the frontier, had other plans. As the shadows lengthened and the sky bled into twilight, Jack stumbled upon a scene that would shatter his solitary existence. A young Apache woman, bloodied and broken, lying amid the jagged rocks, her breath ragged and her eyes fierce with the fire of survival, a testament to the brutal clash between worlds that defined the untamed West. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love for more stories that touch the soul. Jack Harlan was a man forged in the fires of hardship, his weathered face etched with lines that spoke of lost loves and endless trails. Once a promising rancher in Texas, he had fled westward after a raid by outlaws claimed his wife and child, leaving him a hollow shell wandering the Badlands, seeking solace in the isolation of his small cabin nestled against the red cliffs. Hunting was his ritual, a way to quiet the demons that howled in his mind during the quiet nights, but on this fateful day, as he tracked a buck through the thorny scrub, a distant cry pierced the air, not the call of prey, but the faint, pained gasp of a human soul on the brink. He dismounted cautiously, his boots crunching on the parched ground, and there she lay, her traditional deerskin dress torn and stained with crimson, an arrow protruding from her shoulder, likely from a skirmish with rival tribes or encroaching settlers, her dark hair matted with dust, her bronze skin pale from blood loss, yet her gaze locked onto him with a defiance that stirred something long dormant in his chest, a flicker of compassion amid the cynicism that had armored his heart. The decision to help her was not born of heroism but of a raw, instinctive pull, as if the universe itself demanded he intervene. Jack knelt beside her, his calloused hands trembling slightly as he assessed her wounds, whispering words she couldn't understand, though the gentleness in his tone transcended language. She resisted at first, her body tensing like a coiled spring, her hand fumbling for a hidden knife, but weakness overtook her, and she slumped back, her eyes fluttering shut in surrender. With great effort, he fashioned a makeshift bandage from his own shirt, hoisted her onto his horse, and rode back through the gathering dusk, the weight of her frail form against him a stark contrast to the emptiness he had carried for so long. The journey was arduous, the horse protesting under the double burden, and Jack's mind raced with doubts. What if she brought trouble to his door? What if her people came seeking vengeance? What if this act of mercy unraveled the fragile peace he had built in his solitude? Arriving at his cabin as stars pierced the velvet sky, Jack carried her inside, laying her on his rough-hewn bed, the flickering lantern light casting shadows that danced like specters on the walls. He worked through the night, boiling water over the fire, extracting the arrow with steady hands honed by years of self-reliance, cleaning the gash with whiskey that burned like liquid fire, and binding it with strips of clean cloth. She stirred fitfully, fever gripping her. Like a vice, her murmurs in Apache tongue a haunting melody that echoed his own unspoken grief. Days blurred into a vigil of care, Jack foraging for herbs he vaguely remembered from his youth, brewing teas to ease her pain, and watching over her as if she were a fragile flame he dared not let extinguish. In those quiet hours, memories assailed him, the laughter of his lost family, the bitterness of betrayal by the land he once loved, and he found himself speaking to her unconscious form, unburdening his soul in a way he hadn't since the tragedy, as if her presence unlocked a dam within him. As the woman's fever broke on the third dawn, her eyes opened fully for the first time, meeting his with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. He learned her name was Nita, through gestures and halting attempts at communication, a warrior's daughter from a nearby Apache band, ambushed during a raid and left for dead by her attackers. The challenges mounted swiftly, cultural chasms yawned between them, her distrust of the white man rooted in generations of broken treaties and stolen lands, while Jack grappled with his own prejudices, whispers from his past warning him of the savages who roamed these territories. She refused his food at first, suspicious of poison, forcing him to eat from the same pot to prove his intentions. Language barriers frustrated them both, leading to moments of tense silence broken only by the crackle of the fire. Yet in those silences, a tentative understanding began to bloom, like wildflowers pushing through cracked earth. Nita's recovery was slow, her body mending under Jack's care, but her spirit remained fierce, often attempting to leave despite her weakness, only to collapse and be carried back, each time with Jack's quiet persistence chipping away at her defenses. He showed her kindness in small ways, carving a wooden comb for her tangled hair, sharing stories of the stars through the open window, pointing out constellations that bridged their worlds, and she, in turn, taught him fragments of her ways, demonstrating how to track animals with silent grace or weave baskets from river reeds. The struggles deepened as external threats loomed. Whispers reached Jack from the nearby town of settlers spotting Apache scouts in the hills, fueling rumors of impending raids, and he faced the moral quandary of hiding her, knowing discovery could mean death for them both. Internally, Jack wrestled with resurfacing emotions, the warmth of companionship awakening a vulnerability he feared, while Nita confronted her own turmoil, torn between loyalty to her people and the unexpected tenderness of this stranger who had saved her life. Suspense built as days turned to weeks, their bond forging in the crucible of shared adversity. One stormy night, as thunder rattled the cabin, Nita's past caught up. A band of her kin, searching for her, appeared at the edge of his land, their war cries slicing through the rain. Jack stood his ground, rifle ready but heart conflicted, pleading in broken signs for peace, while Nita emerged, her voice steady as she explained her survival and his role in it, bridging the divide with words that carried the weight of her gratitude. The encounter teetered on violence, arrows knocked and triggers tense, but Nita's testimony swayed her brother, the leader, who eyed Jack with reluctant respect before retreating into the shadows, leaving behind a fragile truce that hinted at broader possibilities in a land scarred by enmity. Through this ordeal, change took root. Jack found purpose beyond survival, his haunted eyes softening with hope, as Nita's presence healed the fissures in his soul, reminding him that love could rise from the ashes of loss. She, too, transformed, her fierce independence tempered by vulnerability. Discovering that strength lay not only in battle but in connection, their worlds intertwining like the roots of ancient mesquite trees. As seasons shifted, their relationship deepened into a profound partnership, Nita choosing to stay not out of obligation but desire, teaching Jack the rhythms of her culture while he shared the dreams of a future where boundaries blurred. Together, they built a life on the frontier's edge, facing droughts and dangers side by side, their story a quiet rebellion against the hatred that defined the era, proving that even in the Wild West's chaos, humanity could prevail. In the golden hues of a setting sun years later, as Jack and Nita sat on the porch of their expanded homestead, watching their children play amid the sagebrush, offspring of two worlds blended seamlessly, the cowboy reflected on that fateful hunt, realizing that what he had brought back was not just a wounded woman, but salvation for his weary heart, a testament to the transformative power of compassion in the face of adversity. If this story of unexpected love and redemption has touched your heart, bringing a tear to your eye or a warmth to your soul, please like, comment, and subscribe to Moments of Love. Your engagement means the world and helps share these tales of humanity with more people. Before we end, drop a comment below with the line, "Kindness changes everything," if you felt the emotion in Jack and Nita's journey. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the Arizona sky in strokes of amber and violet, as Jack Harlan and Nita sat on their porch, the laughter of their children echoing through the sagebrush like a melody that soothed the scars of their pasts. Yet, even in this moment of hard-won peace, the Wild West remained a land of restless spirits, where the echoes of old grudges and untamed ambitions lingered like dust on the wind, threatening to unravel the fragile harmony they had forged. Their story, born from a chance encounter in the wilderness, had grown into a tapestry of love and resilience, but the frontier was never kind to those who dared to bridge its divides, and new challenges loomed on the horizon, testing the strength of their bond and the legacy they hoped to leave behind. The seasons had been kind since that tense standoff with Nita's people, the Apache band granting a wary truce that allowed Jack and Nita to carve out a life on the edge of the Red Cliffs, their homestead a quiet sanctuary amid the turmoil of the territory. Jack had expanded the cabin, adding rooms with rough-hewn timber and a small corral for horses, while Nita planted a garden of corn, beans, and squash, her hands coaxing life from the arid soil in ways that awed Jack, who had only ever known the land as a place to hunt or hide. Their two children, a boy named Tarak, after Nita's father, and a girl named Lila, a nod to Jack's lost wife, embodied their union. Bronze-skinned and bright-eyed, they roamed the hills with the curiosity of youth, unaware of the tensions that simmered beyond their world. Yet, Jack felt the weight of those tensions daily. He saw it in the guarded glances of townsfolk when he rode in for supplies, heard it in the rumors of escalating conflicts between settlers and Apache bands, and sensed it in the way Nita's eyes would linger on the horizon, as if expecting her past to call her back. The first ripple of trouble came with the arrival of a new settler, Amos Creed, a hard-faced man with ambitions as wide as the desert itself, who had purchased a vast tract of land bordering Jack's claim, his eyes gleaming with visions of cattle empires and barbed wire fences. Creed's presence stirred unease. He spoke loudly in the saloon of taming the savages and civilizing the frontier, his words dripping with contempt for the Apache and anyone who fraternized with them. Jack, weathered by years of solitude and now softened by love, felt a prickle of dread when Creed's men began patrolling the edges of his land, their rifles glinting in the sun, their gazes lingering on the smoke rising from his chimney. Nita, too, sensed the threat, her warrior's instincts flaring as she taught Tarak and Lila to stay close to home, her hands tightening around the knife she still carried, a relic of her past life. The couple's hard-earned peace was fraying, and Jack wrestled with a gnawing fear, not just for their safety, but for the life they had built, a life that stood as a quiet defiance of the hatred that fueled men like Creed. The tension escalated one blistering afternoon when Jack returned from town to find hoofprints circling his corral, the gate ajar and a horse missing. Nita stood at the edge of the property, her face taut with anger, pointing to tracks leading toward Creed's land. Jack's blood ran cold. Horse theft was a hanging offense in these parts, but more than that, it felt like a deliberate provocation, a test of his resolve. He wanted to ride out immediately, rifle in hand, but Nita's steady gaze stopped him. She spoke of patience, of the Apache way of watching and waiting, her words a reminder that rashness could cost them everything. Together, they tracked the horse under cover of night, moving silently through the mesquite, their partnership a seamless dance of trust, Jack's knowledge of the land blending with Nita's skill in reading signs invisible to his eyes. They found the horse tethered in a makeshift camp, guarded by two of Creed's men, their laughter coarse as they boasted of teaching the squaw lover a lesson. The words cut Jack deeper than he expected, stirring old wounds of shame and loss, but Nita's hand on his arm grounded him, her eyes urging restraint even as her own fury simmered. The confrontation that followed was a study in controlled chaos. Jack and Nita, outnumbered, used the darkness to their advantage, Nita mimicking coyote calls to unnerve the men while Jack slipped in to cut the horse's tether. They escaped without bloodshed, but the incident left a mark. Creed's men reported back, and soon after, a crudely painted sign appeared on Jack's fence, "Leave or burn." The threat hung over them like a storm cloud, and Jack's nights grew sleepless, his mind torn between protecting his family and avoiding a war that could consume them all. Nita, too, struggled, her loyalty to Jack and their children warring with the pull of her people, who faced increasing pressure from settlers encroaching on their lands. She confided in Jack one evening, her voice low by the fire, that her brother had sent word of a planned raid to drive settlers back, and she feared being caught between two worlds, her heart a battleground of love and duty. The turning point came when Creed's ambitions collided with a larger conflict. A skirmish erupted in the hills, settlers and Apache clashing over a disputed water source, leaving bodies on both sides and fueling calls for retribution. Jack and Nita's homestead, a symbol of unity in a divided land, became a target. Creed rallied a posse, claiming Jack was harboring hostiles, while Nita's people grew suspicious, questioning her allegiance as she lived among the whites. The couple faced their greatest challenge yet, to protect their family and their home without succumbing to the violence that threatened to engulf them. Jack, haunted by the loss of his first family, felt the old despair creeping in, but Nita's strength became his anchor. She proposed a daring plan, to broker a meeting between her brother's band and the town's leaders, using their home as neutral ground, a gamble that could either forge peace or ignite a firestorm. The night of the meeting was fraught with tension, the air thick with the scent of rain and the weight of mistrust. Jack stood at the door, rifle at his side but unloaded, a gesture of faith, while Nita welcomed her brother and his warriors, their faces painted with wariness as they faced the townsfolk, Creed among them, his sneer barely concealed. The talks were halting, voices rising in accusation, but Nita's presence, her quiet strength, her ability to speak both languages, her life with Jack as proof of possibility, began to shift the room. She spoke of shared survival, of the land that sustained them all, her words weaving a fragile thread of hope. Jack, watching her, felt a swell of pride and love, realizing that their union was not just a personal salvation but a beacon for others. When Creed's men moved to disrupt the talks, Jack stepped forward, his voice steady as he recounted his own losses, his choice to save Nita, and the life they had built, challenging the room to choose humanity over hatred. The outcome was not a fairy tale resolution but a hard-won stalemate. Creed, outnumbered by those swayed by Nita's words, backed down, though his eyes promised future trouble, while Nita's brother agreed to a temporary truce, acknowledging Jack's courage with a nod that carried the weight of respect. The homestead stood, battered but unbowed, and as the years unfolded, Jack and Nita became quiet. Legends in the territory, not as heroes, but as ordinary souls who dared to love across divides, their children growing up in a world where the lines between settler and Apache blurred, if only a little. Jack, once a broken man, found purpose in teaching Tarak to ride and Lila to read, while Nita wove her heritage into their lives, her songs filling the evenings with a beauty that transcended pain. Their struggles had forged a legacy, not of conquest, but of connection, a testament to the power of compassion in a land scarred by strife. As the stars wheeled above their homestead, Jack and Nita sat hand in hand, their children asleep inside, the night alive with the hum of the desert. They knew the frontier would never be fully tamed, that men like Creed would always cast shadows, but they also knew their love had carved a space where hope could grow, a legacy that would outlast the dust and the blood of the Wild West. If this tale of courage, love, and the fight for a shared future has stirred your heart, please hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs its warmth, and subscribe to Moments of Love to keep these stories alive. Your support brings light to tales of humanity's triumph. Before we close, leave a comment with the line, "Love builds bridges," if Jack and Nita's journey moved you to believe in the power of connection.